Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of On Deck with Big 12 Studios. I'm Casey Homerun, and today I'm joined by one of the Kansas State Wildcats. It's Maximus Martin, the junior utility. He plays shortstop, he plays center field, he's all over the diamond. Max, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
Thank you for having me on. Appreciate it big time.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's start with your season that you're having now. 333 average, 14 homers, 54 RBIs. I mean, obviously those numbers speak for themselves, but I want to ask you specifically what has been working for you at the plate this year in your first year in the Big 12 Conference.
All right. I think the biggest person I can give credit to is my hitting coach, obviously, Austin Waits. He does a great job with, giving us great scouting reports and instilling some confidence in us as hitters. And I think the biggest part of my offense this year has got to be just the mental side of it, of the coaches, giving me free range to go and play my best without worrying about failing. That's probably the biggest part, just because the game is riddled with so much failure. When you have guys behind you and coaches that believe in you and give you the green light to, go ahead and just go play. And, whatever happens, you give your best effort. And that's freeing. And when you're free and you get to play the game of baseball, you're bound to have some success here and there. So I think that's just, that's what's happened. So
yeah, no, I mean you said it right there. Baseball is a game that's riddled with so much failure. And I think, one of the off of your answer there, I found interesting. You're talking about the scouting reports, then you're also talking about playing free. How do you balance that? Because, I mean, I guess how do you balance not getting bogged down with too much information, but then also, knowing that you have that scouting report going up there with a plan? How does that balance come into play?
Right. Well, they're really personal with how we go about our approaches. So not everybody on the team doesn't have the same approach against
Sure.
the same pitcher. We all look for the same types of things, but everybody has their own way of, understanding scouting reports and what works for them best. So he does a great job of almost, personalizing your approach and what you should be thinking about when you go up to the plate. But they're just things to have in the back of your mind at the end of the day, really, to understand that this might be coming in these certain types of situations. But then really it's just going out there and giving your best effort. So when you have, the information you need and some background data that can help out, and then you just go play the game and, you can bring it back up and it just helps. So whatever's anything that's helpful is kind of what we're looking for. So it's a great job.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, let's talk about the team. You guys are 6th in the Big 12. You're 30-21 overall, kind of making a bit of like a sort of a late season push here as the playoffs come up. I want to ask you, what are your thoughts on the way that you guys have performed so far, and how are you guys continuing to build this season as you get closer to the playoffs?
Right. Head coach Pete Hughes. We have meetings, before every practice, every game, and we just go about what this team can do. And we're a very special team, and we have a whole bunch of guys from all over the country. And recently it's been great because we just broke the single season program record for home runs.
That's right.
And I think this year's team is great offensively, and we have so many guys that can hit for power this year. It kind of gives us almost like a full circle team. So when our pitchers are pitching and we're hitting the way we hit, we're a really good team. And as long as we, just continue to keep giving our best efforts, and, we have people here that believe in us, we could go a long way. But really at the end of the day, it's just giving your best effort, but also having fun and just playing. So, when we're going out and playing loose, that's freeing to be playing the game with your guys, because ultimately it's the same game. We've been playing since we were 5 years old.
Yeah.
We're just a little bit older and have a little bit more facial hair. So
that's right. No, and you brought up that program record 90th homer. And I wanted to ask you specifically about that. And it came in a win over number 12 ranked West Virginia, one of the conference rivals. Is this something that, obviously you're knowledgeable of it. Is this something that the team is knowledgeable of as well? That hitting for power and how well you guys have done that this year. Is that a conscious approach when you go up to the plate, or is that kind of just a byproduct of the approach that you were talking about earlier?
I think it's a byproduct of the approach we were talking about earlier. And we did a lot of work in the fall, and we have great tools that we get to utilize here at the university, being on this baseball program. We have amazing pitching machines that are set up with great programs where, we can emulate a whole bunch of pitches. So,
nice.
The same stuff we see in the game is what we see, for a week beforehand. So we get to work on so much in our time together, and we have a great hitting coach like Austin. We can do everything, for the most part in our facilities, and I think that's made such a big difference for me and for the guys on the team, because we have so many guys coming from different programs, and we're all kind of just gelling together. And towards this back half of the year, I feel like we've gotten even closer, just because the regular season's almost over and we have one more, conference series coming up this weekend, and then conference tournament. I think everybody's just kind of all rooting for each other, and that just feeds into giving you more confidence. So when you have all the tools, and then you have your coaches and guys on the team giving you confidence, and you have all the information from scouting reports, it's a combination for success. So we're just trying to take it as far as we can this year.
I like that. Oh yeah, no, absolutely. And one of the interesting things, you kind of touched on it, talking about all the tools that you guys have at your disposal there. And one of the things I noticed, and maybe this is part of it, but you guys are 18-3 at home in Manhattan this year. What is it about playing at home that's given you guys so, an ability to have as much success as you've had?
Right. We made it a statement this year for sure that, when we play at home, we're playing for the people that are coming to the games. Like, we have families that come out almost every single game. Even on midweeks, we have people coming from a long day of work and their kids coming from school, but they're taking time out their day to come support their community and their university's baseball team. So the least we can do, is give our best effort to win the game for them. And then when you have thousands and thousands of people coming to your games, when they have the regular lives and they're busy, but when you have a whole community like that surrounding you, there's nothing you can do but win for them, And the energy we get from them, and just knowing that there's people in the stands that really care about you, gives us all the confidence in the world we need to go out and play our best. So I think that's the biggest thing. And it's great. We have a hill on the left side that, I used to look at all the time when I was at short, and now I'm in the outfield, and now I can see almost, I can see everybody.
There you go.
That just gives you a little bit more drive when you see people show up. And, when they show up, we try to show out as much as possible. Just give love back to them because they've given us so much. So we're just we're grateful, to play in front of people like that. And I love this community. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else.
That's fantastic. Well, speaking of that, I'll go back to something you touched on earlier. You talked about having a bunch of guys in a program from all over the country, and you're one of those guys. You're obviously from New Jersey, started at Rutgers, and then it was Georgia State, and now Kansas State. Can you take me through that evolution in your career, and what made you, end up here at Kansas State in the Big 12?
Right. I personally, man, I just think it's all God willing. I ended up here. The transfer portal is so tricky, and
sure,
being young in college, you don't really know what's going to happen. And when I made the decision to come to college, I thought I'd be at one school, but obviously that's not the case. It's so hard nowadays to find a place that you really love, that you want to be at. But this university, like Kansas State, is the one school where I know if I wasn't a student athlete, I'd love to be a student here
Oh,
just
that's
because of
great.
how the community is. And I'm saying, like, at the games and you see families coming and kids coming to support you, like it's like that in regular day life here. Like if we go to the grocery store, we have people around here giving you love, and there's just so much support and so many resources here that I love this university just for the university. And then playing baseball here is just a cherry on top. So, but yeah, I've been all over the country, and I think just this is where I was supposed to end up. Regardless of how I ended up here,
Yeah,
um, this is where I ended up, and this is where I love this. I love this university, and I don't have one negative thing to say about this place. So when you have nothing
fantastic.
bad to say about a place, I think it's pretty good.
Yeah. No, it sounds like you made the right choice for sure. And going off of that too, because you played in a couple different, Division One baseball conferences now. Has there been a difference in anything that you've seen coming from those to now the Big 12? Is it maybe a depth thing? Because I know I talked to some guys who have transferred around, um, and they've said, they've had their own answers as well. But I'd be curious to know what you think about that.
The Big 12 is an amazing conference.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I came from the Big Ten, and then I was in the Sun Belt last year, and both those conferences have amazing, amazing teams with great talents. But
Yeah.
I think there's something different about the Big 12. Um, I think all the schools in this conference have such a strong fan base and
Yeah.
culture that like I really feel like I'm playing college baseball. Um, and I know other people can say that about whatever the conference they're in, but um, this conference is special, and I appreciate all the coverage that it gives us as players, but also the
Sure.
coaches. We shine so much light on every single team in the conference. There's always coverage on. It's not just one team every single day.
Yeah.
There's love, and there's growth for every single university that's here, and the baseball programs in this conference are great too. So I think the biggest thing probably coming here is just definitely the coverage and media for this conference, is that it's so spread out, and that
Yeah.
every university gets appreciation. That's what's been really cool. Probably one of the coolest things about being at Kansas State, but also being in the Big 12 this year.
Yeah. You touched on it earlier, started the year playing a lot of short. Now you've moved to the outfield. Talk about that transition, because I think a lot of people might not know, what goes into not only playing two different positions like that up the middle of the diamond, but, kind of mid-season having to, shift over there, but then also trying to maintain your hitting approach, because sometimes that can leak into that. What has that transition been like for you, and how have you been able to continue the success that you're having?
Right. I think the approach for me is going to stay the same the whole year.
Yeah.
I'm going up to plate free. I'm trying not to think about a lot, and I'm just trying to have fun and compete. And defense, I love defense. So wherever I play, wherever they need me to play, I'll play it to the best of my ability.
Yeah.
So for me, it wasn't a big situation where I was like, I don't think I can do this, or
Right.
I'm not comfortable. It was like, all right, like if you need me to go there and play there, I'll play there.
Yeah.
And then now it's just me getting a little bit more comfortable and learning it, but also still being ready to play the infield. And it kind of makes, not saying that it wasn't exciting before, but
Yeah.
it makes it a little bit more exciting. It's like,
Sure.
some days I may be playing the infield, some days I might be playing the outfield. So now I never know. So now it's kind of being ready for whatever they need me to do. And
Yeah.
that kind of just makes me appreciate defense more, because I've always been in the infield for the most part. And last year I played a little bit of outfield, but now I can take what I know from the infield and how to move, and now it's just continuing to learn the outfield and doing whatever I have to do to help the team win. So
Yeah.
I love playing baseball, so for me it
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
Yeah. Do you like one? Is there one that You like one more than the other, or you like them both the same?
I think, I mean, obviously, I'm more comfortable in the infield just because I've
Sure.
played there for so many years. But
Yeah.
with some more time in the outfield, I think it could be, positive, that I can play both.
Yeah.
So I want to be able, to be able to look at as the option and the player that, that could go out there and play it if we need him to.
Mhm.
So kind of just being readily available for whatever the team needs is my goal for
Yeah.
this year and for my future. So um, I'm just playing the game regardless of where I'm at. So
Two more questions for you. One of them being, obviously you talked about your team earlier, and I wanted to ask if there's a couple guys on your team that maybe are flying under the radar this year that you want to give a shout out to on the show today.
all right. Need to give a shout out to which you already know about him, but Keegan OConnor.
Yeah.
He's our team leader in home runs right now, and he's getting up there and surpassing me in some other offensive stuff. He's one of my best buddies, along with Shintaro.
Yeah.
But Keegan, yeah, we're both Northeast guys, and I think for us we have a lot of connections through friends.
Yeah.
So my freshman year roommate was one of his best friends, the school that he was at prior to this, and when we
Small
came
world.
here, we found out we knew each other. And it was crazy. Like, oh, you know him? And we're like, yeah.
Yeah.
So he's been an older guy on the team that I look up to, and someone where we're constantly competing every day and pushing
Yeah.
each other to be better. And he's been great for me, and I'd like people to know about him. He's an older guy, but I mean he's one of the best hitters I've ever played with in college. So I think everybody on the team deserves shots, but he's a guy that you know he's a dude, and
Yeah.
he'll continue to be a dude, for
Yeah.
a long time to fill out. But yeah, I'd love to get a shout out to my boy Keith.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, two fun ones for you before we let you go. The first one is, what is the pregame music playlist? If there's a playlist or if it's a couple different artists or genres, what does that look like for you?
For me personally,
Yeah. Or the team. You could do either one if it goes both ways. Yeah.
yeah. I'm not a big music guy. Just I like to read my Bible in my locker out in the waiting room, and then I'll go sit down by the dugout and just kind of talk it up and have a conversation with my guys. But for the most part, pregame for me, music is just getting out into the dugout and listening to music like playing around the stadium.
Yeah.
And getting to talk to some of the fans and stuff and saying hi to the kids and
Nice.
other people around. And that's kind of my sensory for pregame. Yeah.
I like that. Keep it loose kind of thing. Yeah. Yeah. That's nice. Last question for you. Is there a guy that you grew up watching, whether it's a college player, whether it's a big leaguer? I know you talked about your teammate Keegan being one of those guys that you look up to here at Kansas State, but was there a big leaguer that you kind of looked up to as a young player that you maybe took some things from their game kind of thing? And, or maybe a guy now. Who was that for you, or who is that for you right now?
One of my favorite defensive shortstops ever to watch play was Andrelton Simmons when he was on the Braves and his All-Star run. I'm pretty sure right now he's playing in a Dubai baseball league.
Yeah.
Dubai professional baseball. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I still follow him, and
nice.
I still try to watch his stuff and everything.
Yeah.
I just always thought that we were kind of similar builds almost in the infield.
Sure.
And, we looked the same for the most part. Maybe not the hair, but growing up, he always made like the craziest plays. And maybe he wasn't everybody's favorite shortstop, but he was one of the most exciting infielders to watch. And I mean, I love defense, so I have a whole bunch of guys that I look up to, but he was probably the most special infielder that I tell everybody, that I looked up to when I was younger.
That might be my favorite answer I've gotten so far, because he's one of those guys I grew up watching too. He's one of the most electric defensive shortstops you've ever seen. If anybody out there who's watching this hasn't seen his highlights, go watch that because
100%. Yeah.
yeah, a lot of fun. Well, Maximus, this was awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time, and everybody out there. If you enjoyed this and want to see more, you can check all of this out on the Big 12 Conference YouTube channel and on all of your social media platforms at Big 12 Studios. So, Maximus, thank you so much for taking the time, and great luck the rest of the way.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Casey.